Welcome back to the Pageant Gal podcast. I have such a fun episode. It's not even just one episode. We are recording two episodes in this very special two-part episode of the Pageant Gal podcast because this past weekend I just passed on my sixth pageant title. That's right. Yeah, gal is officially crossing 10 years in pageantry, passing on my sixth pageant title, my sixth pageant win. And so I thought it would be really fun to go back through the Reign archives and pull out the biggest lesson that each of these titles has taught me. And it is going to be so valuable whether or not you are a current title holder actively in your reign or you're a delegate who is competing for your reign. There is going to be lots of lessons and tips and tricks for you for not only how to compete more successfully, but how to actually use your time in pageantry to make a bigger impact, have a lot of excitement, fun, fulfillment, open up doors and opportunities, which is why I've always done pageants and will continue to do pageants. So this is going to be a two-part episode. This is part one. So we're going to be going through the first three titles that I held and the biggest lessons that I learned in each of them. And then in part two, which is going to be up right after this one. So if you're watching it with us live when we post this, the episode two is already out, and that's going to be on my most current three titles that I've had. I've had titles from local to national to international, and there are lots of things that I have experienced that I'm here to bring to all of you so that you can use pageantry as your launch pad to being the queen of your life. So without further ado, let's go into it. For some of you, this might be a recap of the titles. For some of you, this might be the first time you're learning about the pageants that I've held, because whenever I tell people that I've won six pageants, they're always like, what titles? What have you won? Tell us. So we're going to go through it all over again for all of you. And we have to start with going back 10 years ago to my first ever local pageant title that I won. Second pageant that I competed in, it was Miss Tecumseh 2016. And this was the first pageant that I won. I did a local pageant, which we'll get to. That's going to come back around 10 years ago. And at the time, it was a smaller pageant. So I thought, okay, I'm going to prepare for this other bigger local title. So long story short, I went and I won the title of Miss Tecumseh. I also got the Best Interview Award. And I believe I won the Photogenic Award too. And with the title of Miss Tecumseh, they have a lot more that they do now with it. Like now the winners get to go to Miss Universe Canada, which is incredible. That started after my time in the sisterhood. So when I had won, you win a scholarship, and of course you get a platform to promote throughout the community, but you also get to raise funds for a certain cause of choice that the entire new group of delegates will help you with. So it was my first time as a title holder. And for context, a little bit of background for where I was in nursing. I was in my third year of nursing going into, I lied. I was not. I was finished my third year of nursing and I was going into my fourth year of nursing, which is a lot of placements, a lot of studying for the NCLEX and graduation and things. So it was a very busy time. And I knew that when I won, I wanted to raise funds for the Sick Kids Foundation just because of a couple of connections that I'd had with people and family friends in the community. So that was locked in. I felt really good about that. And I knew I was going to be graduating. Again, different things. Life comes up when you're in a big transition season, going from being a student your whole life to then having your own career. And I don't know if I want to start with the lesson or with the story. Let's start with the lesson. Let's go into the lesson. Maybe I'll change it up every time. But this was my first time being a title holder. And I had joined pageants because I was going on this really big journey of self-discovery and wanting to find out, who is Maria? She's meant to be a queen. I feel it in my soul. I remember, I'm sure I've shared the story on the podcast before, but how we went on a trip to Mexico with friends. And then when I got back, I looked at the photos and I was like, who is this? I'm meant to be a queen. Like, let's go do queen things. And that's what led me to doing pageants and then winning. And leading up to the title, I was doing a lot of personal development work. I was journaling a lot. I was going out in nature. I was focused a lot more on food. I'd lost about 20 pounds. Like I was really making such a big effort to connect with myself. I said I was going to say the lesson. I'm not. Apparently, I'm going to go into the backstory. So, and then you'll get the lesson. Okay. So you just have to stay tuned. And so when I won the title, a big part of the universe felt like it was saying yes to me. Like, yes, you're finally on your path. You're finally moving forward and realizing like how much potential you have. But when I won the title, unfortunately, I didn't have like the guidance, awareness, and understanding now of how to actually use the title. and how to be with the title and how to adapt to this new identity after going through a really big self-discovery phase. And so a couple things happened that really impacted my mental state throughout that year. The first was that a month in, the guy that I'd been dating for a few years had broken up with me. And I thought, wow, you must be crazy because I'm literally a queen. What is happening? But still, breakups are hard. And then it was about 4 months later that my grandmother, my first grandparent, had passed away. So I hadn't really experienced a lot of loss with family members in life. So I was grieving the loss of my grandmother. And then even just throughout the year, being in nursing and doing title holder things, I'd slowly stop doing the self-care routine that I did leading up to the pageant. So I wasn't reading as much, I wasn't meditating, I wasn't as journaling. I kind of moved jobs and different things like that. But I was so aware, like looking back now, I'd stopped doing the things that helped me get to that place in the first place. And in a way, a lot of the practices that I was doing were really great potential coping mechanisms for the hardships I didn't realize I was going to face. But unfortunately, I wasn't maintaining the habit. And so by the time I got to the end of the reign, as much as I did a lot with it and I loved what I did, I raised almost $4,000 or $5,000 for my charity of choice. I was in every parade, at every event that you could imagine. Something in me at the very end just said, I'm ready to be done. Like, I just felt like I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. I felt like I wasn't as connected to the Maria who won the title as I was the Maria who was passing on the title. And I just realized I didn't want to do another reign that way. And this was where the first lesson comes in. The lesson is that you have to set your expectations for a successful and fulfilling reign. Write that down, pageant gals. It is up to you, even if you have never done this before. It doesn't matter. And P.S., I literally teach my clients how to do this, whether it's in the Queen Collective or a program like Leave Your Legacy, which tells you how to create your own expectations for the title. But I really did need metrics or milestones or something to keep me anchored in why I was doing so much and why I started this journey. And I didn't just need to set the expectations for success, because here's what happens when you win a pageant: your mind starts to wander and go, okay, I want to do everything. And then you try to play what I call like whack-a-mole, trying to do every single event. But then by the end of it, it's like you've whacked all the moles and you're still waiting for more to come up. And now you're tired and now your head hurts and you're like, why aren't there more moles? Oh my God, why do they have more moles to whack? And you just get caught in this feeling of it's never enough, especially when coupled with these unexpected life events that I wasn't prepared for, that I wasn't expecting to happen, and then not having the habits of self-care as much as I had before. I really just didn't know how to navigate the pressure of being a new title holder. And that's why not only is it a huge thing that I coach my clients on, but it's something that I vowed to myself when I passed on the title. I was like, Maria, because I knew I was going to win more. I knew that wasn't it for me. But I said, I am not going to go into another reign like this. Another reign, I'm going to set my expectations for what a successful, meaningful, and fulfilling reign is. Because here's the difference. Success and fulfilling are two different things. You can have a lot of success on the outside, but not feel fulfilled internally. And I wanted a reign that had both. I wanted actually three things: success, impact, and fulfillment. Those are the three things that I always help my clients build their reign around. And we do this not only before the title, but we also do it when you win and then throughout it. Because I encourage my clients to do coaching and training year round so you don't get caught into these phases of, burnout, or even in some places, like a lot of women will go into a bad mental health spiral just because there is a big identity shift that they just don't know how to navigate it. So title number one, Miss Tecumseh. I'm forever grateful for this title, for kicking everything off. But the biggest lesson I had to learn was to set my own expectations for success, for a successful, impactful, and fulfilling reign, and to make sure that I am following through on those things and actually doing the things and being aware of the habits and the presence and what I'm doing. And just the fact that if it's your reign, you're in control, right? Nobody else can have the reign for you. Nobody else can hold the title for you. That has to be up to you, and not taking on other people's expectations. So that was title number one. Title number two, and it's so funny, when I thought about reflecting on each of these, I kind of had like the same point for each of them, but I was like, we've got to make it more fun and creative. So I'm gonna change every point is gonna be different. Every single one is gonna be very beneficial, whether or not you've been a title holder or not, or you're hoping to be one. Now, the second title that I won right after Miss Tecumseh, it was about 6 months later, was Miss Canada 2018. Because I thought, well, I had my reign. It was a little rocky. We had a few life things going on, but I've won locally. Okay, now it's my time to go nationally and win a national title and slowly start paving myself, to be able to go to an international pageant. So, Miss Canada, it is a personality-based pageant. It's based in Quebec. If you win, you get the opportunity to travel to Quebec a few times. At the time, they did have connections with a few international pageants that they would send girls to if they wanted because it would have to be on your own dime. Like the organization didn't pay for you to go anywhere. So I knew that I had some opportunities lined up if I were to win, whether it was through travel or actually competing again. And going into Miss Canada, I felt very good. I felt like I had gotten back the spark that I had lost a little bit in my first title. And I felt more me, and I was doing more of the self-care things. I was doing the self-reflective work, the growth, the thinking about the title, realizing, okay, I have to set my expectations for the reign. This is going to be on my terms. I'm going to do it my way. Really learning from the last one. And I won the title of Miss Canada 2018. I had an incredible experience, and I had my expectations set. I had my legacy plan set. And what I did throughout my time, I always try and go back. People will ask me, like, which title was the most impactful for you? And it's so hard to pinpoint because each of them taught me so many amazing things. But something about my journey as the Miss Canada title holder really just like cracked me wide open and showed me, like, Maria, you're not just meant to be a pageant competitor, like, you are meant to be the pageant gal. And that was really where I showed myself who I was and who I could be because I traveled, I think, almost every single month out of my hometown, out of my province. I had been coast to coast multiple times across to Quebec, to Alberta, to Vancouver several times. I was traveling like all across southwestern Ontario. Like at one point when I had won, someone was like, you should think about getting a manager. And I was like, get a manager? This is a pageant. I thought this was fun. But it's because you do generate a lot of momentum when you hold a title, a national title such as Miss Canada. And I was ready and willing to do the work. I was like, I'm setting the expectations, I'm setting the standard, I'm going to do this. And I had an incredible time. I did get to go compete internationally. It was a smaller international pageant that doesn't exist anymore, I don't think, but I still follow the director. We're still friends on Facebook. And Gaspar Cruz, shout out to you. He's an amazing gown designer if you need a gown. So I competed, I placed top three Miss Continents 2018, 2019. My months and years. I'm like, oh my gosh, how is this so long ago? That was almost 10 years ago. That was 8 years ago, ladies. So competed internationally, traveled a bunch. And a lot of it was thanks to partnerships and connections that I had with a nonprofit organization called Optimist International. So I was part of the local chapter. I was already volunteering with them. And when I had won, word got out at the international level and across, different chapters that I had won in Miss Canada as part of Optimist and how we're taking Optimist across Canada. We're taking it across Canada. And the lesson, that's where I'm getting to, ladies. I'm getting to it. Okay. The lesson is that, yes, set your expectations for your reign. But one thing I really realized throughout this is to start planning for the reign and making the connections and making the plan and the opportunities before you win. Set those things in place, set those things in motion. Because when I won Miss Canada, it really would have seemed like if you would have gone back through the archives and back through the photos and back through the Instagram posts, I really did start that pageant like day one. Day one, I brought my whole community with me. At the time, I worked as a nurse and as a bartender. So right when I won, the bar that I worked at, probably not the best connection now that I can think of it, but still it served its purpose at the time. But right when I got back and I had like literally landed in my hometown, we threw a whole party with my friends and family at the bar, like celebrating that Maria won Miss Canada. Why? Because I hosted a fundraiser at their location and I brought in a ton of people. So they were more than happy to set something up for me afterwards. Then it was that first week that I had won. I already had a plan to go to an event at my sister's school. They were doing a readathon. And then later that week, I did a visit with my nursing job which was at a long-term care home. So all of these things might have seemingly looked like I was just hitting it from day one, going and going and going, but it's because I already made the connections and the network ahead of time. And then on top of it, when Optimist International found out, they were like, we need her at the convention. We want her at all of our regional conventions. We want her speaking. We want her traveling. We want her in our parades. I really did get to go a lot of places, and I owe a lot of my success and the opportunities I got in pageantry around that time because of Optimist International. And I absolutely loved volunteering with them. I love the community, and I'm still connected with many of them on Facebook, and I get to see the different things that they're doing. So thank you, Optimist International. But even without that connection, I still had other things that were going for me, other friends who lived in different places that I would say, hey, do you have an event that I can come out for and come and like literally travel across the country to go and do? So a lot of these things didn't happen with the title because what you have to realize is that for a lot of women, it kind of takes them like 3, 4, 5 months to start getting their footing, to start realizing, like, okay, like this is a catalyst, this is a launch pad. I can make connections. Let me find the people. And it's really not until 6 months in that a lot of women feel like, okay, now I'm really catching steam. I'm really catching speed. I'm getting things moving along. But with my pageants, it's always felt like day one, crown on, let's go, chin up, crown on. And it's because as a queen, again, I promote this heavily in my programs, especially if you're in the Queen Collective, you know that the pageant doesn't just start when the crown comes on. It starts the minute you decide to compete. Planning for that reign doesn't happen once you win. It happens the minute that you register and sign up and say, okay, I'm going to go do this pageant. Because if you're entered, you automatically have a chance to win. If you automatically have a chance to win, that means that your pageant preparation should not just look like interview, runway, paperwork, social media platform. It should look like, what would I actually do with the title? And how can I start putting that in motion now? A lot of women who I talk to who are like, Maria, I've been competing for years and I've been investing in the wardrobe and I've been doing the work and I've been doing the single coaching sessions until I found you. And something's not clicking. I don't know why. And these other girls, they're newer than I am. Why am I not winning? Everything under the sun, you name it. And I ask him, like, well, what would you actually do with the title? And how are you putting that in motion now? And crickets, nothing. You do not plan for the title on day one of the title. You plan for it now. And if you're a title holder listening to this, it's okay. It's okay. Go back to part one of you have to set the expectations. But for the future, start putting things in motion now. Start making the connections now. If you have a dream or a goal to host an event, have you already looked at venues? Have you already talked to sponsors? If you want to do photo shoots and model, do you already have connections with those places? Or are you waiting for the title to give you something that you could actually be setting in motion now? And that is how I had not only a really incredible time as Miss Canada, but my name got out massively. And people really started to follow me because I was building a big community and network of people around me who wanted to see me continue to go to the next level. And people really enjoyed following the journey. So that was Miss Canada 2018. And the biggest lesson is that start planning for your reign before the reign happens. Okay? Amazing. After that title, a couple years passed. I did another international pageant. I did another national pageant. These were more in like the Grand Slam territory systems that I don't typically tend to win just based on my track record over the last 10 years. But I still had a lot of growth, a lot of fun. Again, always going with the mindset of like, I'm here to win. I'm here to train. I'm here to get the most out of this experience. But after a couple of those pageants and a couple of years had gone by, I realized, okay, I want to win again. I was like, as fun as it is, like competing and learning, my goal is to win an international pageant. And I was just very aware that competing at these international Grand Slam styles of pageants, that I would have to do a few more years of work and refinement and maybe not even that to be competitive at those levels because it's hard to go on these pages, on these systems, websites. You go on their pages, you go on their websites, and what does it say? Minimum 5'6" height requirement. I'm like, okay, well, I'm 5'2" over here. Am I going to continue to invest tens of thousands of dollars every year, countless amount of hours, training, all of my time and energy for what? 4 inches of height that I will never get because I'm teeny tiny? No, we're not going to do that. I could. And I do think that I could have been successful to some degree in those systems, but I thought, let's go with what we know. Let's stick with systems who have a brand that naturally aligns with the way that I compete well. And that's a big thing. If you don't know the system and brand of system that you compete really well with, and you've been competing for several years and you're kind of like spinning your wheels, wondering, why am I not winning? Well, one, it's probably your coaching strategy, or two, it's probably that the system isn't aligned with your brand and their brand. So that's something also to think about. But in my mind, my goal was to win an international pageant. I was like, I want to win an international pageant. I want it to happen in the next decade. Let's start finding systems where I can make that happen. And at the time, it had just COVID hit. It was pandemic. I'm like racking my brain through all of the details, but we were slowly like coming in and out of it. And so at the time, virtual pageants started to become a much bigger thing. Not on purpose, but because a lot of these systems could not have in-person pageants, they had to switch to virtual. So it was after one of the last titles that I had held or that I'd competed for that a client of mine that I was competing in, shout out Michaela. I know Michaela and her baby girl listen to the podcast. So shout out Michaela because I was coaching Michaela on her journey to the Royal International Miss Canada pageant, which was virtual at the time. And they were actually running it like a virtual pageant. It wasn't just like you apply and you get it. They had title holders at local regional levels that you would get a package shipped out to you. They had an online interview and an introduction. You had to record a gown video. There was workshops that they did for us. Like they really did try to run it like a tried and true pageant, just in an online setting because Canada just kept opening up and closing because of COVID. So I asked Michaela, I said she was competing in the Miss division. I'd learned a ton about the Royal International Miss system from coaching her. And every single part of it, I thought, well, this seems like something that would be a good fit for me just based on what I've learned about it. And so she said, yes, go do the Ms. pageant, and then I will do the Miss and we'll win, and we're going to go to internationals together. And so I said, okay, let's do it. So sign up for this pageant. I had a ton of fun. There were, I think, three girls in the Ms. division, so it wasn't a very big competition by any means, but it was still a lot of fun. And they mailed out a package that honestly I wasn't expecting. I kind of knew we would get a regional crown and sash, which I do have back here. I don't know if you can see it in one of my cameras if you're watching on YouTube, but I got the crown and sash, very good quality. Like for a regional sash and crown, very good quality, very cute stuff. And then they also gave like a shirt, there was a mask, haha, COVID, of course. And I think there were a couple other things like a magnet and just some other branded items that I was just very impressed to see at a virtual local level for them to send out. So that was a great time. I love the workshops that we did. I think we did a runway workshop and then we did a vision board workshop. Let's cut to the chase. Your gal won Royal International Ms. Canada. And I had 4 months to prepare for internationals. I had won, I think it was February of 2021, and internationals was July of 2021. So maybe 4.5 months if I'm lucky. I had to prepare for the international pageant. At this time, your gal was working a nurse. I actually just changed nursing jobs. I had left my long-term care home and started working in hospice. I was working as a personal trainer. I was running my business. I was doing my coaching business, not necessarily full time, but I was starting to get up there with like being busy and booked. I had just signed up for a year-long coaching program to learn how to grow my business. I had moved out. Me and my now husband moved out at the time. We got an apartment. My sister was getting married that year, so I was the maid of honor in her wedding. And probably just other things of life that were going on, but I had a lot of busy life things happening. Thankfully, nothing hard or like traumatic or loss wise, but I had a lot of personal things happening. And I had to prepare for an international pageant in a system I'd never competed in before. That was a big deal. It was their 10th anniversary. It was a lot happening. And while I'm somebody who just naturally works well when I have a lot on my plate, I'm not someone who gets like burnt out or bogged down very easily. It would have to take me doing a lot of things that are very out of alignment for me to need to like push pause on everything. So I actually felt like the 4.5 months flew by and I managed it very well. But in that time, what I learned getting to the lesson. So again, Title one, Miss Tecumseh, lesson is set your expectations for your reign, for what a successful, impactful, fulfilling reign would be. Lesson two for Miss Canada 2018 when I won was start doing the work, making the connections, and building the network of a queen and title holder now. Plan for your reign now. Lesson number three is allow yourself to have fun and be really creative and innovative in the way you do your your pageant journey. Allow it to be creative and to be different. Because at that time, had I been so locked into pageant prep has to look a certain way, and I need to get to the gym a certain amount of times, and I need to be doing a certain amount of things for like 6 to 12 months out, I would have been stressed the whole time because I didn't have time. I didn't have even the gym. The gyms kept opening and closing. They would open for a couple weeks and close for a month. Like Canada's COVID lasted like 2 years longer than everyone else's, I swear. So not only were gyms opening and closing, boutiques were opening and closing. It was a heck of a time trying to get stuff shipped out. So my preparation looked like doing it in my little like 8 by 8 office at my new apartment. And because I had so many other things going on, I really had to focus on doing the things I could. But in that came a lot of new creative ideas. And that's really when I started hosting more online events. That's actually when I first ran. It was about 6 months prior. I ran my first ever virtual pageant. I had 20 women sign up. So I ran another one to help raise money for, I believe it was the cause of choice or to support me on the journey. I forget. But this is when I got a lot more into hosting online events. I also did several speaking engagements online. I was judging pageants online with Optimist International that I had connections with. A lot of their events and conferences shifted to being online. So I would help out with, they had like a kids camp that we did online. I was one of the mentors. Our international convention was online. So it was so funny. We had like this virtual portal and there was like a little picture of me in the portal that was like, click on Maria if you need information. So I learned that you had to have fun and be creative. And that you can't be so locked in. Like, set the expectation, set the plan, and then let it go and let it flow. You have to be willing to, innovate and to move with the life circumstances that are in your hand. If you just go, this is the plan I made and it has to stay like this and I have to do it like this, otherwise I'm mad and upset and I can't be happy, you are not ready to be a queen. Okay? And what's crazy is that, and then we're going to get into this in part two, is that it was that crazy busy plate that I had for 4 months where most of life was closed down, at least where I was in the country I was in, that I didn't have access to resources, events weren't opening. Oh, and the reason why that's so important is because for Royal International Miss, the title that I won, surprise if you didn't know that, your gal went on to win, the title that I won, you have to have a certain amount of community service hours. Not just a number of hours, but a variety of hours. And so it's kind of hard to do if there's no events going on in your actual in-person community. So I had to get creative in finding my own events, in creating my own events, in saying that just because events are not happening, that is not going to stop me from being a queen. I'm going to be creative. I'm going to be innovative. I'm going to use my connections. I'm going to find a way. And this is the thing. At the end of the day, a winner is always going to win. At the end of the day, a queen is always going to queen, and excuse makers are always going to make excuses. You always have a choice. Your gal chooses to win. She chooses to find a way. And that was the lesson in title number 3, which really didn't last that long. I mean, technically, it's not like when you win the international pageant, like the first runner-up gets your title, your Canadian title. I still retained the Canadian title. I just only assumed the international title. But eventually we did have someone new who ended up getting crowned the Ms. Canada title. But that title really only lasted 4 months, 4.5 months until I won my international title. But still, it taught me a very big lesson that I was able to carry with me into my next 3 pageant titles, which you're going to find out all about what they are and the lessons I learned in part 2, which you can go and watch right after this episode. So first of all, from part 1, from the 3 titles and the 3 lessons, I would love for you to DM me on Instagram. I'm at the Pageant Gal. I look at all of my DMs as long as, I will get back to them. If I don't get back to them, it's probably because it's like hidden somewhere in requests or in general, because Instagram is fun like that. But send me a message. Send me a message in a DM and let me know which is your biggest takeaway. Which of these are you going to be implementing and working on first in your journey to either becoming a title holder or the journey of your reign completing as a title holder. Everything is always Don't stress if you're like, I wish I had this information sooner. You have it right now. So you have the power to implement it now. So send me a DM and let me know which title was most impactful for you and the lesson behind it. And then head over to part two to learn about the three other titles I won and the three other biggest lessons that I learned from six pageant titles, six pageant reigns, and the biggest lessons from all of them.